Welcome to another Goodwin English lesson. In today's lesson, we will study the difference between comparatives and superlatives. Comparatives are a type of adjective. Now, do you remember what an adjective is? Words like happy, beautiful, big are all adjectives. They describe a noun. Comparatives are used when you compare two things. For example, let's compare a cat and a dog. The dog is bigger than the cat. Here, the word bigger is a comparative adjective. A superlative is very similar to a comparative, but the superlative is an adjective that is used to compare something in a group. Basically, it can be used to compare more than two things. For example, let's compare an elephant with all the other animals in the world. Elephants are the biggest animals in the world. Here, the word biggest is a superlative. So, how can we make a comparative or a superlative? Let's start with comparatives. There are three basic types of comparative adjectives. With one type, we add er. With another type, we add ier. And with another type, we add more. With adjectives that only have one syllable, we add er. What is a syllable? Well, basically, a syllable is one sound. For example, the word big. This has one syllable, big. What about the word beautiful? This word has three syllables, beautiful. For words that have one syllable, we add er. For example, big becomes bigger. Small becomes smaller. Words that end with y are a little special. In this situation, you change y to I and then add er. For example, happy becomes happier. Last, with words that have three or more syllables, we add the word more. For example, beautiful becomes more beautiful. There are some special adjectives. These special adjectives don't really have any rules to them. We just have to remember their comparative forms. For example, the word good becomes better. The word bad becomes worse. Little becomes less. Far becomes farther or further. Let's look at some example sentences. John is taller than Randy. John is happier than Randy. John is more interesting than Randy. Now let's talk about superlatives. Superlatives have very similar rules to comparatives. If the adjective has one syllable, we add est. So big becomes biggest. If the adjective ends with a y, then the y becomes I and we add est. So happy becomes happiest. If the word has three or more syllables, then we add the word most to it. So beautiful becomes most beautiful. Remember, there are some special adjectives that don't follow any rules. We just have to remember them. So good becomes best. Bad becomes worst. Far becomes farthest or furthest. Let's look at some example sentences. John is the tallest in his class. John is the happiest student in the school. John is the most interesting person in the world. Notice that when we use the superlative, we always add the word the to the superlative adjectives. Don't forget this. These are the basic rules, but there are some exceptions to these rules. Later on in the lesson, I will go over some of these exceptions. Now let's talk about adverbs. What is an adverb? Well, an adverb is used to modify or change a verb. Or an adverb is used to describe an action. For example, John ran fast. Here the word fast is an adverb. If we want to compare one action with another, we can use a comparative adverb. For example, Joe ran fast, but Mary came first because she ran faster. There are 3 basic ways to make a comparative adverb. These are the same basic rules we just studied. If an adverb has only one syllable, we usually just add er to make it a comparative. For example, fast becomes faster. Hard becomes harder. Late becomes later. Let's look at some example sentences. Mike's car is faster than Randy's car. Japanese is harder than English. Randy's wife usually wakes up later than Randy. When an adverb has 2 or more syllables or ends with ly, we can make it a comparative by adding the word more to the front. Carefully becomes more carefully. Happily becomes more happily. Slowly becomes more slowly. Let's take a look at some example sentences. I'm sorry, I didn't understand that. Could you speak more slowly, please? There are a few irregular adverbs that really don't have rules. You just have to remember them. For example, badly becomes worse. Far can become farther or further. Both of these are okay. Well becomes better. There's a couple of easy to make mistakes that many English students can make. Of course, one is using the comparative instead of the superlative. For example, Randy is biggest than Mike. Of course, this is wrong. The correct sentence should be Randy is bigger than Mike. This is because we're comparing 2 things. Of course, the opposite is true too. Many people use the comparative instead of the superlative. For example, Mike is the bigger student in class. This is also wrong. The correct sentence is Mike is the biggest student in class. Because here we are comparing Mike with more than one person or within a group. Another very common mistake is for people to simply add the word more to every adjective. So, America is more big than Japan. This is wrong. Remember, we talked about the different rules. We have to use those rules. So, America is bigger than Japan is correct. Again, with the superlative, many people simply add the word most to every adjective. So Mike is the most tall student in class. This is wrong. The correct sentence is Mike is the tallest student in class. Now we will do some practice. Let's see how well you listened to today's lesson. Choose the correct word. My house is blank than her house. Bigger or biggest? Which one? The correct answer is bigger. Here we are comparing two things, my house and her house. When we compare two things, we use bigger. Your dog runs blank than Jim's dog. Faster or fastest? The correct answer is faster. Here we are comparing two things, your dog and Jim's dog. When we compare two things, we use faster. My house is the largest. My house is the blank one in our neighborhood. Larger or largest? The correct answer is largest. Here we are comparing more than two things. My house with all the other houses in my neighborhood. When we compare many things, we use largest. Your dog ran the fastest of any dog in the race. Faster or fastest? The correct answer is fastest. Here we are comparing more than two things, your dog and all the other dogs in the race. When we compare many things, we use fastest. This box is blank than the one I lost. Smaller or smallest? The correct answer is smaller. Here we are comparing two things, this box and the box I lost. When we compare two things, we use smaller. This is the blank box I've ever seen. Smaller or smallest? The correct answer is smallest. Here we are comparing more than two things, this box and all the other boxes I have seen in my life. When we compare many things, we use smallest. Today's homework is very easy. In the comments section, please write 2 sentences. One sentence using a comparative and one sentence using a superlative. For example, my wife is meaner than a bull. My young son is the world's loudest alarm clock. Well, that's it for today's lesson. If you have any questions, please write them in the comment section below. If you liked today's lesson, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. My name is Randy League, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.